Hello and welcome to ANK's Wheel of Time podcast, where we intend to go through all 13 books of the Wheel of Time series, chapter by chapter, to provide commentaries and thoughts and feelings on what we're reading. This is a completely unscripted podcast, and we are reading these books for the first time. Neither one of us have read these books before, although they have been positively recommended by friends of ours. And we wanted this to to be a chance for us to give some honest feedback and thoughts in relation to this series. Just as an FYI, if you do want to leave any thoughts or comments in relation to this podcast, you can contact us on my Twitter feed at Warrior346, as well as by email warrior346@yahoo.com. So we are doing chapter 2 today, which has been entitled Strangers. And this episode starts off, or this chapter starts off where the last one ended. So you have Matt and Rand, who starting to unload the cart from the wine and to take it into the inn for storage. And as they're walking through, they see Tam and Master Alviers, who's the mayor, talking, and they see a few other of the city council sitting by the fireplace, and it's oddly quiet. I mean, everyone's just sitting there, kind of pensive, and just smoking. Normally, at such a time, apparently, they would be kind of reading, or at least there would be some form of light discussion, I would imagine, but everyone seems to be pretty quiet. We get introduced to a few other characters. The main ones that will be covered early in this chapter is Lewin, who's the blacksmith. And his wife. Will also get to see Mistress Alviers, who's the mayor's wife as well, who makes an appearance in this one as well. So, as they're walking through, Matt notices that the blacksmith is kind of looking in their direction, and is that Harald Lewin, who's the blacksmith, is kind of looking in their direction, and he gives Rand a bit of a kick to the to the shin, to tell him to get a move on. And here's where we get to find out the kind of prankster that Matt is, or a little bit more of that side of his personality. One thing which I do like about this chapter is that, and I'm not sure how much of the book this is going to relate to, but it seems to be told, at least these first two chapters anyway, from Rand's perspective. There are a few things that we'll be talking about later on this chapter, which seem to be focusing on Rand's point of view, and how he's thinking and feeling about different things. But yeah, so just to kind of start this off, what did you think about this chapter?
Oh, you're letting me know. Well, obviously you get a bit more in.
Well, I just want to get the intro.
Development.
I just want to get the intro and just what happens on the first a little bit, so you can.
For 4 whole minutes. It's fine. There's more introduction to new characters. Obviously, there's a mention of a couple more council members and their friend that seems to be mischievous along with Matt. There's also, as the title says, strangers. So there's mainly the talk of three strangers that have come to this festival, which is not a common thing. So there's the well, for all intents and purposes, the bard, which
Gleeman?
The Gleeman. They call it a Gleeman. It's a bard. And then you've got they've, as they're unloading the carts and the councilmen are huddled around in a quiet little discussion. You don't really get to hear all that is discussed there.
Or any of it, really.
But their friend
Ewan?
Ewan, comes along and then picks up a conversation with the boys about odd happenings that have been going on in the village. So there's mischievous sort of odd pranks and
I want to focus on that just for a moment, because I got to admit, it was kind of funny what Matt did.
Oh, go on.
Okay. Well, I love he initially tells a couple of guys, guys in the town, that there would be some ghostly dog. There was a ghostly dog that had been seen in the woods, and to kind of enhance that experience, because they were lapping up this the story that Matt was telling him. And so Matt thought, well, let me take this a step further. So he covered Harold Lowen's dog completely in flour and planted him outside this guy's Dag's door. And thinking, okay, he'll stay there, he'll freak out Dag, and and there'll be and that'll be the end of it. It'll be kind of a funny thing, but that'll be all they would do. Not so much. The dog decided to wander on home. Master Harold Lowen's wife had left the door open, and the dog, covered in flour, ran in and spread flour all over the house. And so
she chased all three, essentially.
Elsbeth Lewin, who's the wife, she chased out everyone out of the house. Essentially, she was not a happy camper.
With her broom.
With her, and so and Matt is kind of recounting the story to Rand and thinking, I've got a feeling that maybe why Harold's got a small teensy problem with me, but I mean, there was no clear evidence that he was involved, but there certainly is a strong suspicion. But yeah, so there's that kind of, he's got that definitely the practical joker sense about him, something which I've envied in many a person, to be honest. I'd love to be able to pull something like that off, but it's just not in me. I don't have that kind of, I've tried, but I've always failed miserably.
So after that little mini story, there's they then go into the whole discussion about the two new strangers that have come in, that Rand doesn't know about, being the very finely described lady and gentleman. Did you want to talk to them about that one?
Yeah. Oh, you want me to, or are you going to?
Oh, that's what I said. Do you want to talk about them?
Okay. Well, just before we do, actually no, we will. We'd start to get introduced to them, but before we do get introduced to to these strangers themselves, initially Matt and Rand are thinking, oh, we've got a third witness, to the person I will call the Man in Black, because they started asking. They initially kind of talking over each other, are asking was this man, was it in the woods or in the town? Was he dressed in black? And Ewan has got. I'm having quite the amusing image of the look that's coming on Ewan's face when he's asking us, "What are you on about? What drugs are you smoking?" Because the people that that he saw, were very finely dressed, certainly out of place for for this rural town, with with the way they were looking and whatnot. He does get get their name. It's Moraine. And we find out that when she first
And there's Lady Moraine and then there's Len. That's her companion.
yep, we don't quite know the relationship between the two yet.
I'd imagine he's a guard, given the description. He's got a sword with him, and she mistook the wisdom for a child and offended her in that way. So clearly, the wisdom, or the lady
Nynaeve.
who holds, no, I know the Nynaeve, but whoever holds the position of the wisdom is obviously revered, because as soon as she found out, Lady Moraine, that she was the wisdom, she corrected herself and apologised profusely. So it's obviously well known.
And started to...
And it's a culture, it's not just, that little village. It's more broad.
In terms of that kind of a position in the community.
The knowledge of it, yes.
Or in local communities. Yeah, no, that's fair. We also find... Alright, so not too long after that, basic discussion...
It was just basically he was talking about
kind of an introduction.
occurred.
Yeah, it was just a basic introduction that Ewan had made. This
about
is
the story about what he'd heard.
And seen.
Yes.
Anyway, they continue to bring the wine casks in from the cart, and each time that they're going back and forth from the cart to the back room, Rand tries.
Being said.
Right, Rand is curious as to what the rest of the city council has turned up, and they're having some form of discussion, which we don't know anything about yet. Just that this discussion was taking place. He's noticing that Rand is noticing that it's a very intense kind of a discussion, but is unable to hear anything about it at this point. After they make their last trip, actually, before we get there, I am very curious as to what this council meeting would have been about. They do make the comment there that worry is something which is, it's that kind of sense which is being felt in many of the local towns around. So there's obviously something big which is happening. There's whatever this thing is causing this worry. It's not just in affecting Evans Field. It's affecting other areas.
Well, like we said when we were reading the first chapter, Rand could notice it himself, that the forest and stuff's are quieter and darker and things like that. So to imagine that if this whole darkness thing is reoccurring, and if there are people around, like Lady Moraine happens to be, she describes herself later on as a historian, so clearly there are historians who would record such happenings, and as a result there would be people who remember, such as the wisdom and things like that, and she may just be holding her counsel for specific people who could possibly help to deal with the issue.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. So anyway, it seems that whatever is happening, there's something big that's in the process of going down. That's in the. I'm guessing that whatever is still in the preparation stage, but to the point where it's starting to, people are definitely starting to sense that something's off, something's wrong. After they make their last trip, it's a raven?
Yeah, they walk outside and they're telling Ewan about the Gleeman arriving, and he seems to have trouble believing Matt because he won't stop questioning whether or not it's true. So it just goes
Until there's
to
some
show
form of proof given.
Yes, even asking Ren if the Clearman's there. So Matt has this very poor reputation to be a high reputation, I suppose, in being a liar and a mischievous person. Not known to sort of tell a white lie to excite and amuse himself and possibly his closer companions. And Ewan seems to be the butt of his jokes sometimes, from what we could imagine, with the
And
of that.
while that's happening, they kind of stop mid conversation because Rand is having like this feeling of being watched again, and sees and sees this bird. I'm fairly sure it's a raven.
Yes.
And I got to admit, when I was kind of reading this chapter, I don't know why, but I was kind of picturing the Simpsons episode where they're doing the Edgar Allan Poe's the Raven, Nevermore, because this bird is clearly watching them. Matt doesn't take too kindly to it, and both Matt and Rand, look for stones to throw at it to try and scare it away. And they do throw the stones directly where the bird is, but the bird, instead of doing what birds normally do, just takes a step to the side so the rocks miss it. Both boys are shocked by that because normally a bird would just fly off. And it's not until a woman appears behind them that this bird sees the woman, and decides to, quite literally, head for the hills.
It's interesting, though, that what kind of a bird this one might be in terms of its... clearly it's intelligent, whether it's being controlled by someone or whether it has its own intelligence. We're not sure.
Yet?
Not yet, no. But it's interesting because I've read a number of books where birds have placed a significance. Birds and cats and things like that. Certain animals, they have these. One bird was telling prophecies and things like that, or would be so observant that he would actually give advice to people. It's very interesting.
And
different perspectives of what authors see in animals and the importance.
Well, we've got say C.S. Lewis as well with Narnia and how
the lion.
Well, I think not
animals.
Yeah, I was thinking in particular that Silver Chair, where there's a council of owls.
Mm-hmm. But not just that, but later on, as you go along in that series, supposedly all the animals stop talking in Narnia, except in the ones that are deeper into the forest, and only certain people will actually venture into them to discover that they still are.
Fair point.
Anyway, I found it interesting.
But this is where the boys, the boys finally get to actually meet. I wouldn't say finally, but they do get to meet.
Personally, they meet her anyway. They've heard
Moraine.
stories.
They initially, as typical boys would do, upon seeing a beautiful woman for the first time,
stutter a little,
get a little tongue-tied. The whole blah blah blah. I'm huh. But they do manage to get their names out. I'm Rand. I'm Matt. They give their their full names. So, Rand, Matt, and Ewan will introduce themselves, and Ewan, trying to ingratiate some kind of favor to her, I suppose, trying to make him out to be the smart one. Says, I was the one who found out your name. I was the one who I heard Land say it. And I told these guys, I let them know, what your name was, so that's how they knew. They knew because of me. It's the beginning of Beltane Festival. It's winter night. Do you want to come to my house? My mother would love to see you and all that, and really is trying to gush over her, and which I find really cute in some respects.
But it also goes to show the difference in their age too, because it does actually say that he's younger than the boys.
But when we get a clear description of Moiraine at this point as well, that as that she was very strangely dressed for for this kind of region. She was in a very fine robe, gold link, gold waistband belt, kind of thing, wearing a kind of like a crown, not quite a crown, but a headdress.
No, it was a jewel. It was a jewel that basically a chain that. Sort of was placed around her forehead too.
And a ring, a serpent ring, which apparently is an older symbol for eternity than the Wheel of Time. I do, look forward to reading more into that later. And I don't know.
The serpent eating its tail is not the first time I've heard.
Oh no!
Being read in a book and stuff. It's interesting the different takes about what it actually means for different authors too. So for this one is eternal, represents eternal life
or eternity of some kind.
Yeah.
And after they've done their introductions, they initially are asking if there's anything that they can do. That they want to be able to help her, and she gives them 3 silver coins, one silver penny each, and says that in time, while I'm here, I'm going to have errands that I'll need you to run. And after saying that, Rand asks the question, why are you here? What is someone like you doing here? Because this is essentially, and makes a comment that there are soldiers who come around periodically, often that this is the back end of nowhere, and so wherever the actual name of the country is, because we still haven't heard that yet. It's this is a backwater kind of nowhere place. It's a rural town, nothing. And why would someone who is dressed as finely as you are, what the heck would you be doing here? And here's where she makes a statement that she is a historian, and I've got the feeling, I don't know, the thought that I'm having, and just with the way that she talks about what she's doing there, that she may exist possibly outside of time, or if not exist outside of it, is able to control it to a point, travel through it.
Possibly. I'd imagine, though, that she definitely knows more than she's letting on, and in terms of not necessarily being so much of a historian and keeping a record of what's happening, but also trying to find and locate someone, because clearly she's asking about age, how long they've lived there, and the things like that nature. So she's clearly doing something that's more to do with searching for someone or something. Someone really, because she's asking about age and how long they've lived there and what they do and stuff. So she's definitely looking for someone.
And towards the end of the end of that, she does say that she'll talk to them later, and she walks off. I am very curious as to what that later conversation is going to involve and what these errands are that she's going to have them run. The thoughts which are kind of going through my head at the moment are that they're going to be some kind of test of some kind. I mean, as you say, that she's clearly
looking for someone,
and she's trying to determine
who it is. And obviously, all 3 of those boys are within the age group that she's looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So she's, obviously, we do actually find the name of the village. We possibly did hear it in the last episode.
Oh, we got the name of the village, which is Emmons Field, but we don't know the overall name of the country. So, yeah. We know small, we just don't know big. But yeah. So after,
But they do nickname it the Two Rivers.
well, Two Rivers, I think, is kind of
No, but they nickname it the Two Rivers
Yeah.
because it's
well, Two Rivers, I
It's
think, is
just there.
kind of slightly one zoomed out. You got Emmons Field, which is kind of the town where they are, but I think that that
Two Rivers.
Two Rivers might be a slightly the next level up in terms of area, possibly. But again, we'll find that out, I suppose. But as she walks off, Lan, who has been standing nearby, walks past him, gives him a brief look over, and then goes off to join Moraine. And then so apparently the Two Rivers area had another name of some kind. Not that anyone ever, or no one remembers from that area is there now. But they do make the comment that the inn that's there has been there essentially forever. So it's possible that the area had other names that they're just not aware of. But yeah, and that I think is essentially where the
Well, the only other thing that they do is that they each decide to keep the coin rather than
good
spend
point.
it
Yeah.
when the peddler gets there, which he does just
as the chapter ends.
as the chapter ends. Yes, so he's got the fireworks, so obviously they're all going to be happy and merry and gay.
And so it's they've got they managed to score essentially the trifecta for the festival of Beltane, which everyone is
Gleeman, a lovely lady to look at, a potential
and
bard, and
fireworks.
Yes.
This is going to be a Beltane to remember. And so I can understand them wanting to keep the coin because what they want to be able to have the option to when they find out what these errands are. At least this is my thinking, that when they find out what the errands are, to say, sure, we'll do it, we'll keep the money, let's go. Or, are you nuts, you're asking us to do that? Heck no, take your money back.
I don't think it's that. I think it's more a fact that it was given to them by a very fine lady. They don't obviously get a great deal of money, per se, at their personal age, and so they just want to keep it to remember this particular
I
time.
think keepsake?
Yeah, keepsake more really than anything else.
I think that may be the case in the case of Ewan, but I don't think that in the case of Rand and Matt, because I think that Rand and Matt are both sensing that there's more to her than meets the eye.
Hence
That
the
and-
reason why they want to keep it.
And the freak out session that they had earlier with the man in black.
Yes, but she didn't give them that vibe.
No, not the angry vibe, I agree, not the negative vibe, but all these strangers kind of gathering in this town now, it's definitely raising an eyebrow for them in terms of what the heck.
Yes, so you don't think that they'd want to remember that by keeping
It doesn't seem like that for me. Not for them.
Okay.
Ewan, I can understand it because Ewan is just a clueless dolt. But at
Actually,
least
he just wanted to spend the coin. He didn't really think about it at all. It
Well,
wasn't until
exactly.
Rand just said that he was going to keep his.
But I think it's because he didn't trust her. Not of a keepsake thing, but it's comes to me of a case of I don't trust her. I want to see what's going on first before I decide to do anything with this coin.
Okay, we spend a lot of time talking about a coin.
Yeah, we do. But more, say the purpose of the coin. So, it's been an interesting, second chapter. We did get more descriptions in terms of the makeup of the city council, more in terms of who's involved in it. We do know that they are having secret men's business of some kind.
They're not secret men's, but they're holding a council at a time when usually it's not, the bar's not filled with anyone in particular except the son and the father who's preparing for the evenings, I guess, when people do come in. But yeah, so obviously something's going on.
Oh, one other brief side note as well is I also like the fact that the mayor, and in addition to being the runner of the inn, also happens to be a brewer. Kind of makes his own beer. So I'm sure that would have. I'm not quite sure how one gets to be the mayor. We haven't been given the political landscape on this one, but I'm having quite the amusing thing that he kind of bought his votes.
And tend to their happy hour.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so there's the second chapter. It ends with the peddler coming to town and everyone being starting to get really excited that he's actually shown up.
Hence the reason why the next chapter 3, is called The Peddler.
So yeah, we're. I'm sure that as far as speculation for the next chapter, what do you think's going to happen in the next chapter?
Yeah, talk about the peddler.
Okay, yeah, sure. State the obvious.
I don't know. Look, I think a lot of development still to do with the setting up of the festival, possibly even the festival happening, or at least maybe them getting.
Or the start of the festival, anyway.
The start of it, yeah. They might finally actually get to see the Gleeman, who's clearly, obviously a sleepyhead, and I'd imagine that's kind of pretty much what would happen. It's either the continuing setting up of and or discussion with the peddler and possibly meeting the Gleeman to tell his stories, although he may not come out until the festival starts, so who knows?
Well, possibly. But peddlers, I don't know. For me, I would agree with you. I also think that the peddler is going to have his own kind of story to tell. We're going to get in terms of where he's been, what he's done. There might be a little bit of
how the roads are at present,
and kind of getting some news from
other cities,
from about, maybe passed along, and maybe get some.
Gleeman can do that too.
True, but Gleemans are there more for entertainment. Peddlers, sell not only objects but information.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we'll see. This has been ANK. Once again, you can contact us on my Twitter feed, Warrior346, and on by email, warrior346@yahoo.com. We are open to any feedback or thoughts and comments in relation to to this podcast. We ask you please keep it constructive. I mean, if there are ways we can or things you don't like, please let us know what they are so that we can work on doing better next time. Thanks again, and may the wheel of time keep on spinning.